Hi everyone, it's Paula from Paula Quilting. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be making a third block to finish off my wedding quilt, and as you've seen in my previous first part or second part, I've got those kind of started crumb type of blocks from the cut-offs I had from the first big drunkard's path blocks, and I would really like to use them in that third type of the block. So far what I need is 48 big blocks for the quilt and 8 blocks for the 2 cushion covers, so in total I need 56 blocks, and so far I've made 42 big drunkard's path, 24 small ones, which gives me 6 big blocks, so I still need 8 blocks to have kind of both quilt and the cushion covers. So with my crumbs, I was thinking I would like to make some sort of diamond blocks, and by diamond, or maybe not even diamond, a jewel, raw jewel blocks. So I would like to have some of those crumbs kind of inside, shaped somehow to the raw jewel shape, and then framed it a little bit with something contrasting, and then outside I will put all of those leftovers from the main block, so it kind of is still tie up together, but it's a little bit different. For after project comments and suggestions, stay till the end of this video. So as I said, I need 8 of those blocks, and I think I've used up all of those small squares. So the block is 10.5 inch, so I you know that the middle part I would like to have more or less around 4.5 inch, but it's not going to be a square, it's going to be random shape. So if I divide it into 8 sections, still got some strips here, I can use those ones as well. If I divide it into 8 and see how big it is, and I can still add some of those scraps to make it a bit bigger before I start shaping it to what I need, I think that will be a good start with that. So that's 5 in here. That will be my 6, and I said I need 8 blocks, so I will put together some of those scraps into, again, some sort of a crumb type of block. Oh, here it is. This can be a beginning of that. So that will be 7. I'm just looking for some sort of seeds of my crumbs, how I call it. Maybe I will just take one of those. Split those two. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 seeds. So for starters, I will use those scraps to kind of make it bigger to more or less 4.5 inch, and then we'll start shaping how those raw jewels would like to be kind of cut, and then we'll go for the next step. Okay, so I've put my scraps together, and I kind of roughly cut it very irregular on the edges. Each of them is a little bit different to the shape, so that should give us nice kind of, you know, variety of the shapes at the end. But before I start adding, you know, the plain fabric or the fabric which is in the other blocks, I would like to kind of highlight those raw gems. So I've got some leftovers of the 1 inch strips I used in my other project, the double scrapper one, when I was linking the blocks together. So what I will do, I will go around those gems with the black before I start putting the other colors around it to make it then an actual block. Okay, I finished making my all of my centers of my jewels, and now it's time to add you know, the borders around, or you know, filling in the gaps to 10.5 inch, so I have a full block. And I've pulled out some of that fabric I've got, you know, I've used for the main drunkard's bath blocks. Now this one I've got quite a lot of that fabric, so I'm not so worried, but this one I really want to use the red one because I like it, but I don't have quite a lot of it. I'm gonna have to be very careful how I'm using it to make sure it's enough. And you know, I'm happy to stitch it, patch it to make sure you know, it covers the space. So you've seen I've got different, had different sizes of those centers. So I've picked up, I think, the biggest one. Maybe this one is even slightly bigger. I will go with this one then for this fabrics, because like I said, I don't have a lot of it. So first let me just quickly iron it, and for that part of the process it's good to have the iron board just close by. I also going to use some space starch before I trim my block to the size. So I think I will use this strip first, this edge is straight, to kind of fill in those triangles here as much as I can, and then once it's more or less squared up, I can kind of see which parts I can use where to build up my 10.5 inch block. So let me start with those triangles first. I'm just checking where my edge is there. I don't want to overshoot. As I said, I don't have too much fabric, so I want to use as little as possible. And actually, probably because I've got so little fabric, I will iron straight away after each stitch and then trim it, because I need to make sure I'm quite, you know, saving that fabric. If I had more, I could just cut that piece into smaller bits first, stitch all around, and then trim it in one go. So I would just put some chunks of the strip, add all around, and then trim it in one go. But like I said, a little bit of fabric, so I need to be, you know, careful how I'm going to do it. So I'm just going with the edges of my black fabric to square it up. So that's one. Let's go with the second one. And because I've got this kind of triangle here, I can go this side like that, because how I'm going to be trimming it will be this way. So I just need to make sure it sticks a little bit so I can nicely trim it off. But this is how I can now stitch that bit on to not lose, you know, too much fabric in the stitching. That's the thing when you're sewing with scraps. You don't have enough of amount of one of those scraps, then you kind of have to be creative. Again, I will quickly iron. Okay, now I can trim it again, and you can see here not a lot of leftovers, which is good. Oh, not a lot of waste, that's what we call it. And here just straighten up. Okay, so that's two sides now done, and now I can put the third one. Okay, here I will be trimming this way, so it's, I'm just kind of eyeballing, do I have enough, because if I have something like this and go here, there will be not enough to square up, so I just eyeballing that it will give me that edge here. I don't have like a missing bit here, but I should be fine with that one. So let's stitch it on. Okay, so that's the third one. And one more. So again, would that be enough? I think it will. I'll just pull the thread which stayed from the previous stitch. There you go, it's out. So that will actually, even this way or this way, either way how I stitch it, it will be enough. So again, quite a nice saving there. Okay, here just about exactly on the line, so that's fine. And just trim that bit here. So it's not obviously rectangle, but all the corners are now kind of filled in, so I just now got straight pieces to be adding all around until I've got my 10.5 inch. And I am not trying to have this like that in center. It can be somewhere off the center, somewhat in the center, let's say. So this one I'm gonna have to trim that way, so this piece is not going to be enough, but if I do it here it should be alright. So I will stitch this one on this side. I think I need to just trim off that edge, and then I can stitch that on top of it. I'm just going in the middle here. You know, there will be not a lot of leftovers of that one anyway. And actually here I can add this small strip on this side, again somewhere in the middle, because as you can see it goes like trapezoid here, so I need to put it this way so I've got enough space to square it up. This edge is straight, so I'll go with this side. This is what it looks like now. Let me just check if I've got 10.5 inch here, which I do. It's more than 10.5 inch, which is great because that means I can square it up. So let me trim this side. This is a quite big piece for me, so I'll keep it for my other blocks. So I will put this one on this side, and after I've stitched it, that will go this way, that will go this way, so I'll go a little bit here. After I've stitched it, I will cut off a little bit and put it on the other side. I will just, I'm kind of using a whole piece still, because I will put the ruler on top of it after I've stitched it, just to see how I need to place that other fabric. So I'm not going to trim it yet to the strips. Let me just use all of that piece. I really hope I've got enough. Okay, so this is where we are at the moment. So I'll just take my ruler and I will place it to see, that's my 10.5 inch basically ruler, so I just place it how I feel I would like to trim that block later. So I want to have this more or less in the middle, but you can see the top and the bottom is not even, so I'm not stressed over it either. So I've got all this piece here I can chop off, and hopefully it will be enough to put here. Let me just trim this edge straight. And let's do the best I can with what I've got. I think I should be enough. If I trim this one and swap it around, it should be enough to cover this bit. So, well, ready or not, here I come. Let me just move it. Something like that. Okay, so I've got straighter piece here now. So I will put it here. And then in my, now because it's the last ironing after I stitch that, I will use the spray starch to nicely starch it so it's nice and rigid, and then it will be ready to square up. Okay, my block is ready and I hope now I can square it up. Okay, I'm missing tiny itsy bitsy piece here, but once I've cut one of the sides here, I could do that, or would that be enough? No, I will trim a little bit here. Then I will leave myself a little bit of allowance on this side for squaring up. Let me cut this part out, and then I just need to see where exactly needs to go, so when I do that last stitching now, I will be able to square it up. So here, that's where it needs to go. I'll just even move it up a little bit. There's enough of space there. Yeah, got enough all around to then trim it. Just make sure you, this is where my ruler finished. Obviously I need to stick out more because there's going to be still a 1/4 inch allowance there, which will eat a little bit of fabric. So hopefully now a last stitch. Okay, so let's see now, do I have enough? Move it this way, move it this way, move it this way. Perfect. Okay, so as you can see, I don't have much left over of that fabric, literally a few bits and pieces. I was just about prepared for this block with that fabric, but it's great that I could use it because I really like that. So I don't mind that I've got extra seams here. I actually quite like when I'm using the same fabric and those seams are there. I don't know, I think it's just adding that extra texture to the block. So I will now repeat the same thing with all other 8 blocks, and I will pop them on the design board so you can have a look how they came out. And this is how my finished jewel blocks look like. Honestly, I didn't know it's going to look so great. I totally see a whole quilt made out of those, and maybe combination of smaller and bigger blocks as well. So that's another food for thought for our next quilt. So let me just put some of those blocks here. I have not been trying, like I've mentioned, put those jewels in the middle of the blocks anyhow. They were supposed to be random, just to add a little bit of more interest to the blocks. And I do like how those stitches where you're patching up the fabric, the same fabric, look like. They really add like, you know, another dimension to the quilt. And this one, I'll put them on the design board in a minute just to take better pictures, but just wanted to show you in the better light how they look. So totally, you know, scrappy block, very easy to make. It does require a little bit of thinking, you know, do you have enough fabric? But as you can see, you know, there's no harm to patch up few bits and pieces. I can show you on this side. There's a seam here, there's a seam here, there's a seam here. There's a seam here when I was putting pieces together, not to lose any of the fabrics and not to need to go to the cut from the bigger one. So really user friendly, very scrappy friendly, and I think very, very effective. So those are the block now finished for my top and cushion covers for my wedding quilt. So now I can kind of design the top and put all of those things together. And in the next tutorial I will be working on the back of the quilt, which also will be made out of blocks and it's not going to be plain fabric. So I hope you will join me for that one as well. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial and it kind of gives you an idea how to use up your crumb blocks or some strips and scraps and whatever you've got in your scrappy buckets. Check in the description below for more information and more tutorials and more resources you can use in your journey. Thank you for joining, thank you for watching, and see you next time.